Hi everyone, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface, and I know pretty much everyone who's going to watch this video is aware of Blitzchung, but I'm just going to give a very brief recap. Blitzchung, of course, was the Hearthstone player who did well, won a tournament, and while being interviewed, he dressed himself up as a Hong Kong protester and said, liberate Hong Kong, freedom, revolution of our age, or something along those lines. Very quick pro-Hong Kong statement indeed, lasting a couple of seconds at best. Blizzard Entertainment, the NetEase aspect, the Hong Kong aspect, Chinese I should say, came down on him like a ton of bricks. And I say Blizzard as well because Blizzard haven't done anything to change this, which we'll get to. And initially banned him for 12 months from tournaments and took away his prize money as well. Now, after a couple of days, or the next day, an American Hearthstone team put up a sign saying "Free Hong Kong, hashtag boycott Blizzard." That team received no punishment. No punishment. In actual fact, they had their next match already booked for them. They were approached to have their next match arranged, to which they themselves pulled themselves from the tournament, saying it's not fair that we have received no punishment and Blitzchung has received his penalty. After another couple of days, Blizzard decided to give Blitzchung his prize money that he had won throughout the course of the year, which accumulated to approximately $10,000, and reduce his ban from 12 months to 6 months, which was still stupidly high, ridiculously high. American universities, who held up the sign, were then also given a 6-month retroactive, well, I say retroactive, a 6-month ban. The punishment really came after the fact. They weren't getting any punishment, but Blizzard realised that they had to try and balance the two to make it look as if they were being fair. Fair. 6 months. Now, of course, one of the reasons they said was because of the political aspect of it, which, as we know, is absolute horseshit. Horseshit. Because at Blizzcon, J Allen Brack came out on stage and he said that Blizzard had failed, and he said that Blizzard were wrong and we acted too quickly and we acted too harshly and we need to do better and all this kind of shit. And what did he do? Nothing! The president of Blizzard Entertainment did nothing to either reduce the ban even further or to rescind it completely. No, he came out on stage, he virtue signalled and did not a single thing. But when he came out on stage, he was quite happy to wear his Blizzard Pride badge and push his own politics. And then a couple of days later, after BlizzCon, they were quite happy to publish their Girls Who Code identity politics. Quite happy to push that. Of course, they turned the comments off because they're cowards. Great at virtue signalling, but they can't take any constructive criticism because they can't understand that men and women might actually gravitate towards different professions. No, we got to balance it. Got to get equals, even if we have to force it. No, so they're quite happy to push their own politics, but somebody who dare say liberate Hong Kong, revolution of our age, gets a 12-month initial ban and his money taken away from him. Reduced down to money returned and 6-month ban. This comes today from the BBC. I can't show you this. I've watched it. I can't show you this. If I show you this video is... And it shows horrendous behaviour going on in Hong Kong right now. Horrendous. And I'm not even joking. It's awful. Awful. And that's what he's speaking out against. Ban him. Keep our own identity politics. Keep our own identity politics. So it's completely hypocritical. Massively hypocritical. And that's why I was very critical of J Allen Brack when he came out on stage and said it at the start of BlizzCon. Because if he had then turned around after he'd said, we've failed, we've done this wrong, we've done that wrong, we acted too quickly, too harshly, too rashly, we are going to remove the ban on Blitzchung and America universities, then I would have been fair enough. Okay. But no, they've got to appease their Chinese overlords because Blizzard is China's bitch. And everyone knows that, and Blizzard know that. And Blizzard won't rescind the ban because they know they've got to keep them happy. They want to do business in China. You got to keep NetEase happy. You got to keep the Chinese happy. And that's why they won't do it. So they're quite happy to, as I said, virtue signal. They're quite happy to say all the things. Yes, you did act too quickly. Yes, you were too rash. Yes, you do need to do better. But they won't act on it. So they're hypocrites. Massive, massive hypocrites. Jeff Kaplan, the Overwatch guy, who may or may not have been drunk when he came out on stage at BlizzCon. The jury is still out. Who announced Overwatch 2 and a small bit of PvE DLC that they're going to charge full price for, has actually come out and said that he would like to see the ban removed or reduced further. And he's the first major person in Blizzard, he's a VP, to actually come out and say this. So this is actually coming from the Washington Post. I'll link this in the description box down below. It goes into the little bit of the Blitzchung thing. In the days since the convention, there are many who feel Blizzard has not done enough to correct its actions. Yeah, you know, they've shown off other identitic politics, but, you know, there we go. Even after it was reduced from 12 to 6 months and returned his winnings, one of those people is Blizzard Vice President and Overwatch Game Director Jeff Kaplan. I was relieved when they reduced his suspension, Kaplan said in a Friday phone interview, and I think the suspension should be reduced more or eliminated. But that's just me. Now, it's really quite, I would imagine, quite rare for somebody of Kaplan's position to speak out, to actually go against the grain here. Because although, as I said, Brack has said all the things, all the right things, he hasn't acted upon it. Not acted upon it at all. And this 6 months, even the 6 month reduction is ludicrous. He then goes on to say, I'm obviously a huge supporter of free speech, and it's something that's very important to me. It got to me personally. I think the punishment was too harsh, and I was greatly relieved when they gave him his money back. I think it was extremely important. It happened way too quickly and came as a shock to Kaplan. He shared that most of his staff, including himself, didn't know about the incident until they saw news articles on the subject. Yeah. So he goes into detail about how he himself deals with bans within Overwatch, and they talk about a process which normally lasts about 4 to 5 days. They make a decision, they play devil's advocate on the decision so they can see the flip reverse of it, and then they can see, but then it goes on to say, I was actually shocked that such a harsh penalty was levied. Then it goes into Brack himself. We moved too quickly in our decision making, and then to make matters worse, we were too slow to talk with all of you, he said. But we're not going to do anything. I'm just going to tell you our failings, but we're not going to do anything to act upon it. I do have to stress, though, that Kaplan said, I think as individuals, we all have... Kaplan made it clear he did not speak for the entirety of his Overwatch division, and said that many of his team of developers have differing opinions on the situation. Now, differing opinions doesn't necessarily mean that people agree with the severity of the ban at all. I mean, if I have said before, personally, I think Blitzchung should have just received a slap on the wrist. That is it. He should have just received a slap on the wrist and a warning. because that would have been the logical thing to do. That would have been the sensible thing to do. You know, keep your politics, please, out of the game. You know, if you want to make comments like this, do it on your own social media. Don't use our platform to signal boost. You've been warned. If you do this again, we will act. That's how I think it should have personally been dealt with. I would have probably been... I probably would have understood if they said, he's been suspended for the next match. Or whatever. He's received a 2-week ban. Something like that. I could have been like, you know, probably would have gone like, okay, fair enough. But the severity of it, the 12-month and on all his money, and then even when they gave him his money back and reduced it to 6 months, it's still stupid. Absolutely stupid. Now, as regards to what this is going to do, I don't think it's going to do anything. I don't think it's going to do anything, sadly. But I do think it's very important of what Jeff has actually done here, because what Jeff has done at the very least is to show that this sort of opinion, this sort of punishment, which has been pushed and clearly pushed by the Chinese, is not shared. Is not shared in Blizzard itself. It's just sad that Blizzard don't have a backbone anymore to you know, actually run their own company. It's just a shame they don't have that, because just by the fact that he came out on stage to address it, and I'm talking about J Allen Brack here at Blizzcon, clearly shows that they know they did the wrong thing. They know they did the wrong thing. But it's Blizzard, you know, and you got to get that Chinese money. And so I'm pretty sure this 6-month ban is going to hold until then. How long's it been already? We're probably already a month or so into it, aren't we? Christmas is coming. Can you see things happening? I can't. Meanwhile, you know, you fancy watching a bit of that, seeing what's going on? Jay, do you fancy watching this? Fancy watching a couple of students get shot point blank in the chest by policemen? No? Oh, okay. Don't worry. Just take your Chinese money. So I hope you enjoyed the vid. Not apt, but there you go. If you do give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel. Follow on social media and Twitch for live streaming. Links are in the description box down below. And I'll be back with some more stuff very soon. You take care. Bye for now.